Hello and welcome to Guardian Angel Food Pantry Finds. I'm your host, Craig Bettenhausen, and I am just some guy. So if I can cook this stuff, so can you. Let's get started. Today we're going to be doing Babaganoush, which is an eggplant dip. I like to serve it with, pita chips and things like that. So first off, you're going to get a big old eggplant, and you're going to be cooking it at about 400 degrees in the oven for about half an hour. It doesn't really matter all that much. The details here are not important. You want this thing to be really, really well cooked. In fact, you want the outside to be a little bit charred. You want that skin of that avocado or eggplant to go from being that nice purple to being pretty black. You're going to want to stab it a bunch of times because you want to be able to have the gas escape. There's a lot of water in an eggplant. And so as you're cooking it, you want the water to be able to escape. I have a convection oven, so I've set my oven to convection. It doesn't really matter. Make sure you get your oven rack set to the right height for what you're trying to do here. There we go. That's a little better. So stick that sucker in there and bake it for a long time. You want a high temperature so you do get some charring. Babaganoush is often made smoky. You don't have to make yours smoky. This one isn't super smoky that I ended up with. So I'm going to bake it for about half an hour at about 400 in a convection oven. Once it's done, you're going to get this kind of limp, sad-looking charred thing. And that's what you actually want. Next thing you're going to do is skin it. You're going to cut off the stem and transfer it into a sieve. You can also do this with a jelly bag. But you want everything but that outer layer of skin. And I find a spoon is a good way to peel this. So I've baked this, and then, just scoop it all into a sieve, a jelly bag, a nut milk bag, anything that's going to let you squeeze the water out of this thing. Because even after you've baked it for half an hour, 45 minutes, just bake the heck out of it, and once again, you cannot overcook this thing, basically. It's still got a lot of water, and you want most of the water to be out in order to get a creamy dip at the end. It seems counterintuitive, but you want to get the water out to get a creamy dip. So I'm just going to smush this thing here into this sort of medium mesh sieve. And this is the same thing I use to wash rice or beans. Not real rocket science here. None of this is. Like I said, I'm just some guy. If I can cook this, so can you. Now, I did end up saving the eggplant juice, and I'm going to use it as a vegetable stock or something like that later. But most people just toss it. It's just kind of a mildly sweet vegetable, thick juice. It's fine. Once you've got it drained and strained, you're going to put it into a food processor or a blender, but food processor works a little bit better. You can chunk that in there. That was one large eggplant. This is a pretty large eggplant, as you saw. To that, I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of tahini. This is the kind I have. Any tahini will work. It doesn't have to be special. You could also do this with almond butter, but tahini is really what's going to make it taste right. Tahini usually separates, so give it a good stir before you put it in. And then, about 2 tablespoons, maybe 3. This is not rocket science, folks. Tahini is going to give it that kind of nutty flavor, that richness. And, tahini is delicious if you use it right. With any tahini dish, the key is you're going to want to get some water and some other stuff in there to cut that sort of astringency out, because tahini will just dry your mouth out. But in something like this, it's beautiful. Tahini is a sesame seed paste. And you can find that basically anywhere at this point. You're going to find it at any kind of Middle Eastern or Indian market, but you'll also find it in a regular grocery store. Just look a little harder or ask somebody. Next thing you're going to add is some fresh garlic. So I'm going to chop off the ends, the stems. I'm going to smash it with the knife. It's my advanced technique. Bam. And bam. Then you peel off the paper. By smashing it, it makes peeling off the papery outside a lot easier. That's my technique. You may have your own. Whatever. Basically, peel your garlic. I peeled my garlic a lot of ways before I hit on this technique, but this is my favorite. Just cut off the end, smash it under a knife, and the paper comes right off. No special tools required. You can chop this sucker up. Doesn't have to be real finely diced, just enough so that the food processor can, grind it up into the paste. If you leave them in too big of chunks, you'll end up with a big chunk of garlic, which as a garlic fan, I don't ever mind getting a big chunk of garlic in my babaganoush, but it's better this way if you get it nice and blended in. But that's all you need to do. Just toss that in. And that was 2 pretty large cloves of garlic. It's fresh though. Fresh is always better. You know, this is a recipe that if you have some old garlic that's starting to sprout, it'll tolerate that. You might want to use more than you would otherwise. So this is something that if you got old eggplant and old garlic around, that's fine. I'm going to put in about 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil. And this is just regular, just Aldi grade olive oil, nothing special here. Next up is lemon juice. I know that looks like a soy sauce container, but it's lemon juice because I like the way that it pours. And that's about a tablespoon, something in that neighborhood. Next up, pepper. You can be fancy like me and fresh grind some pepper in there, or you can just use, pre-ground pepper. In any case, you're looking for, I don't know, like a half teaspoon to a teaspoon, somewhere in there. That's cumin. The cumin's not necessarily necessary. That's kind of redundant. Anyway, I like cumin, so I added a bunch of cumin. This is whole cumin. You could also use ground cumin, either way. Then you're going to process this thing until it's smooth. With a sort of low-end food processors like mine, you kind of tilt it up and down into the side to get a real smooth mix. And you start just taste testing, and you can keep on adjusting that until you get to the flavor that you like. And the trick that I find is not to add too many different things. It's easy to just start adding a bunch of more ingredients, and you get kind of a flavor that's too general. Now, salt you do need. This one didn't have enough salt. Sometimes the tahini has some salt in it. So I added about a, half teaspoon of salt or so. And then hit it on the food processor. And you're looking for a good, smooth, creamy finish. What do you got here? Oh, yeah, a little more garlic. It didn't have quite enough garlic for me. I like a lot of garlic. Most people would probably be fine with the 2 garlic cloves that I just added for 1 large eggplant. But I'm kind of a garlic fiend, as is my wife and family. Well, not the kids so much. A little more olive oil just to thin it out a little bit, make it blend a little better. Because once again, this is supposed to be a dip. It's supposed to, stick onto a piece of pita bread or something like that, or a cracker. I'm just going to hit it again. I'm going to go back and forth and just try to get to a nice, smooth consistency. Looking for something kind of like a little bit grainier than a pudding. So I just added a couple of dabs of liquid smoke here. This is not a necessary ingredient. You could use smoked paprika instead. And once again, you don't have to have your babaganoush be smoky at all. You can also get your smokiness from just cooking your eggplant at a higher temperature or for longer. A little bit of smokiness does kind of bring out a nice earthiness. You could also, instead of doing any of those things, add a little bit of instant coffee, like a pinch. And that will similarly bring out some of those earthy tones. And that's pretty much it, folks. That's babaganoush. I'm going to plate it up, serve it with some bread, sprinkle some pepper and olive oil on there. And that is babaganoush from eggplant from the Guardian Angel Food Pantry. Thank you for listening.